And we all understand that to be a leader, you must be an example. But I'm talking more about just being an example in appearance or professionalism. Yes, it's important to dress properly. It's important to have yourself groomed properly, to keep yourself in good shape and all those other type of things. Yes, that is important, but that's not the kind of example that I'm talking about when you're in a leadership role. The example I'm talking about falls into two categories. The first one is an example that you project by inconveniencing yourself when you do not have to. Because of your position and your authority, you don't have to do this. You can get away with it, so to speak, if you do not desire to. And there'll be no consequences to you. But you opt to do it because you know it's the right thing to do. The second one category is when you take risk as a leader, willingly take risk that, once again, you're not required to do because of the position you're in. But you feel as though, if I'm going to ask this of the people that work for me, I will show them that I'm willing to take the same risk. In order to illustrate some of these characteristics, I like to tell stories about my experience in the Air Force. And I need to caveat these by upfront saying the purpose of telling you this story is not to impress you with what a great leader I was, because as a matter of fact, I've got a few stories out there that are not so complimentary of my leadership skills. And I'll tell those too. I know you can't wait for those. However, I do find that by telling a story, it's a lot easier to illustrate the point I'm trying to make. And so that will be my purpose, just to illustrate the point. For example, with regards to convenience, I took a wing of aircraft and individuals, about 1,500, to the desert back in the middle 90s to prove a concept called the Expeditionary Air Force. It was our first deployment, and we were going to show that the Air Force could get essentially almost a no-notice tasking, and within 24 hours launch our aircraft, land in a foreign country, in a bare-based situation where all we really were provided was a runway, and then operate a combat mission within 24 hours, or within 12 hours of landing, and then be able to continuously sustain ourselves for 3-4 months. We went to Jordan. We landed at one of their air bases called Azraq, and we lived out in a desolated desert part of the base. Well, when we arrived on the first day, I was met by the commander of the Jordanian Air Force, the commander of the base, and a host of other dignitaries. And after we had a chance to get to know one another and have a little bit of a social, the base commander came up to me and said, "General Looney, I know that they're going to be putting tents up. As a matter of fact, they've already started putting the tents up, and that you will be living in a tent. But, sir, you are the commander. We do not want you to live in a tent. We have set aside a nice house with air conditioning. It's fully furnished. We'll make sure that that you'll have a couple of servants that will keep it clean and take care of you and all the rest of this." And I thought about that for a second, and there was a little voice that said, "Wow, man, this isn't going to be so bad after all." But then there was another little voice that said, "Hey, wait a minute. You're the commander. How can you possibly go live in a nice air-conditioned house with running hot and cold servants and all those other type of things while all of your airmen are in tents out in the middle of the desert dealing with the inconveniences?" And so I quietly declined, or quickly declined, courteously declined this offer. And I went and lived in Tent City with my airmen. And in the morning, I would go to the shower tent with them, and I would shower alongside them, and I would shave alongside them, and I went to all my meals at the dining hall with them, and I slept in my tent, and when the sandstorm came, I was covered with dust just like they were. And they knew it. And they knew it. They would have also known if I were over in that sweet air-conditioned house thinking, "Man, it sucks to be you." There's risk in this in the job of leadership. And your people expect you to take risk. They expect you to take risk. And when they see you're unwilling to take risk, you're sending a signal to them that you do not have trust and confidence in them. And unfortunately, there are too many or so many leaders that equate risk to, I'm going to fail. And if I fail, the consequences will be great. So I don't want to take any risk. But look at it the other way. You take some risk and you succeed, the rewards are even greater for their organization, for the individuals involved. It's a mindset about risk. Now, I'm not encouraging people to take foolhardy risks. You want to take smart risks. But taking risks is part of the business. And you know, what do you think are the most challenging risks to take? Risks with your people or risks with the business or the mission? And I'll help you. It's your people. Because people are crazy. You don't know what people are going to do. Now, sometimes accomplishing a task or a mission is a little challenging too, but at least it's usually constrained. People are not necessarily constrained. And so sometimes leaders are very hesitant to take risks with their people. But it's counterintuitive, because I have seen it throughout my career. When you take risk with your people, they are less likely to fail. They are less likely to fail than when you are unwilling to take risk with your people. And I believe the reason for that is when you take the risk and they understand you're taking a risk, they appreciate the fact that you have trust and confidence in them, and they don't want to let you down. They don't want to let the organization down. They don't want to let their peers down. They don't want to let anybody down. It's when you won't take risk that you send a signal to them that you do not have trust and confidence, and therefore there's little commitment on their part when they're put in situations that can go one way or the other. I've often heard leaders say, "Prove to me I should trust you, and then I will." Not a good approach. I believe the right approach is, I trust you and have utmost confidence in you until you prove to me I shouldn't. But right out of the chute, I believe in you. When people hear that, see that, know that, my experience is they will not let you down. As a matter of fact, they will astound you with what they accomplish. Why? Because in this model, it's all about the leader. It's all about the leader. And when you as a leader begin to believe it's all about me, you'll never be able to create this organization that exceeds expectations, at least from my perspective. So how should we view leadership? Well, let's turn it upside down on its head. Because you see, in this model, the individuals at the top are the workforce. And that's where it happens. That's where it happens. I know Mr. Robles, and he is a great chairman and a great leader. But he doesn't answer the phone when I call USAA. He doesn't answer my questions or make adjustments to my account when I need that to be done. And he doesn't say to me at the end of the conversation, "General Looney, thank you for your service." The workforce does that. And they're the ones that write the policies. They're the ones that keep USAA operating at the level that it's operating. They're the ones that are the face to the customer. They're the ones that are faced to the other members of the workforce. They are the ones that create this organization that will exceed expectations. They're the ones. And they are the most important part of any organization. And so this model says it's not about the leader, it's all about the workforce. And I like to remember that.